Welcome to VFIS of Canada, a division of CVIS Incorporated. VFIS is the largest provider of insurance benefits for the Canadian Fire Service and has been doing so since 1991. If you are watching this video right now, that means you are a current policyholder of VFIS, and welcome you to this overview of your current coverage. As a policyholder, you can be rest assured that we take what you do seriously and have developed innovative benefits to protect you from financial loss if the unexpected occurs. This presentation will give you a basic overview of those innovative and comprehensive benefits, to which you should have been given a client brochure that details your specific benefit levels and coverage limits. You can use this brochure to follow along with this presentation and see exactly what benefit levels your fire department has selected. On behalf of our staff, we appreciate your business, and we thank you for trusting in us to provide your firefighters with the most comprehensive plan in Canada. Before getting into the specifics of your coverage, one must ask, why did our emergency service organization go with VFIS for our firefighter coverage? VFIS has provided comprehensive benefits to Canadian emergency responders since 1991. VFIS protects emergency responders who are injured performing covered activities of the emergency service organization. Reduce or eliminate financial loss to a member who cannot work their regular full-time job due to a covered injury. Provide benefits when workers' compensation does not cover activities that are covered under this policy, such as non-emergency activities. VFIS fills the gap in income loss by coordinating with other valid and collectible insurance, such as workers' compensation, to provide up to 100% of gross lost wages. VFIS provides primary benefits when departments have chosen to opt out of workers' compensation where permissible. On-duty benefits. Benefits are paid when injured performing any authorized activity of the fire department, to, during, and from such activities. Insured persons means any officially designated member of the department while acting as a volunteer or paid-on-call member, a junior member or member in training, a commissioner, director, trustee, or board member, a deputized bystander during participation in an emergency, an auxiliary member, a non-member asked by the department or auxiliary to assist. Last but not least, it covers administrative personnel. Please note, this policy has no age restrictions. Covered activities means any activity, including travel directly to and from such activity, which is a normal duty of an insured person, including emergency response for fire, rescue, or emergency medical activity, physical training exercises that simulate an emergency, firematic events or contests, pre-approved covered athletic events conducted on the premises, classroom training, fundraising, conferences, meetings, banquets, authorized public safety education events, administrative or maintenance duties, and Good Samaritan Acts. Good Samaritan Act means when a volunteer emergency responder takes immediate action at the scene of an emergency, not on behalf of the department. An example of Good Samaritan Act is as follows. A firefighter is going to their cottage on the weekend and is driving up the highway when they notice a small vehicle fire on the side of the road. They pull over to assist the driver in distress, and while doing so, is hit by an oncoming vehicle and is seriously injured. They would be covered under the policy. Our policy is broken down into the following categories, such as loss of life benefits, lump sum living benefits, weekly income benefits, and medical expenses. The following is a list of loss of life benefits to which are paid in addition to any other valid or collectible insurance benefit that might be paid to you, such as workers' compensation. These benefits are also tax-free when received. When VFIS pays a loss of life benefit, it is not just the death benefit that is only paid out, but other benefits such as the ones listed could be paid as well. Keep in mind that these loss of life benefits are paid up in lump sums, except repatriation, which is actual cost incurred. The accidental death benefit is paid when loss of life occurs as a result of participating in a covered activity. There are no time limitations as to when this loss must occur. The seatbelt benefit will be paid in addition to the accidental death benefit. If a properly fastened seatbelt is worn when death occurs, an additional 25% of the death benefit is paid. Under the safety vest benefit, if death occurs as a pedestrian on the scene of a MVA or while directing traffic and wearing an approved CSA safety vest, an additional 25% of the death benefit is paid. The military benefit will pay if death occurs due to bodily injury while serving or training on behalf of the Canadian Armed Forces or Reserve units. We will pay this benefit. Such death must occur within 12 months of the bodily injury. Even though you are not actually killed during an official on-duty activity, it is our way of showing gratitude for your selfless dedication and service. When it comes to illness loss of life definitions, VFIS has one of the best definitions in the industry when it comes to heart attack or stroke. We are the only company that does not require a doctor to prove that the firefighting activity caused the heart attack or stroke if physical participation occurred within 48 hours of the loss. A death benefit is provided when death occurs. 1. Due to an illness as a result of participating in a specific covered activity. 2. Due to a heart attack or stroke within 48 hours of participating in an emergency response or a physical emergency training exercise. Both death or medical treatment must occur within 48 hours of participating in such activity. Treatment within 48 hours is waived for infectious disease. Here are 3 examples of an illness loss of life. Example 1. A member experiences chest pains and dies at the scene of a stroke. This is automatically covered as the member lost their life during the covered activity. The second example is a member experiences chest pains at the covered activity and is medically treated within 48 hours, however has medical complications as a result of this, and dies 2 weeks later of a heart attack. The loss of life benefit will be paid. Third example is a member dies due to heart attack within 48 hours of responding to a call or physical training activity. If loss of life occurs within 48 hours and there was physical participation within this time frame, the lump sum death benefit is automatically paid, and proof of the activity causing this loss is not required from the doctor. The following benefit, called Dependent Child and Education Benefit, is paid to each dependent child when the loss of life benefit for either accident or illness is paid, and the money can be used for whatever the family wishes. When a loss of life occurs to the insured person, whether it be by accident or illness, the spouse will receive the spousal support benefit, which is an additional amount paid to them, and can be used for whatever the spouse wishes. Keep in mind that this is paid in addition to the loss of life benefit. When a loss of life benefit is paid, the memorial benefit will be paid directly to the fire department, and they can direct these funds as they see fit. For example, they can use the money to buy a piece of equipment in the memory or honor of that fallen firefighter. When a loss of life benefit is paid, the legal guardian for each dependent elder receives this benefit. Dependent elder means any parent, parent-in-law, grandparent, grandparent-in-law, great-grandparent, or great-grandparent-in-law of the insured person, who was dependent upon the insured person, and claimed on the insured person's Canadian individual income tax form. This benefit is paid per elder. The repatriation benefit is provided for reasonable expenses incurred, outside of 50 kilometers to return a member's body to their current place of residence. An example of this would be if the fire department is participating in an extrication competition out of the country and a loss of life occurs, the body will be shipped back to the residence. The following lump sum benefits are paid up and beyond any other benefits such as workers' compensation, as well as paid in addition to our weekly disability benefits. These benefits include the following: accidental dismemberment, paralysis, vision impairment, injury permanent impairment, heart impairment, illness permanent impairment, cosmetic disfigurement from burns, HIV positive, felonious assault, the cancer benefit, and coma benefit. Under the accidental dismemberment benefit are percentages that would be applied to the principal sum when the irrecoverable loss occurs. Each body part represents a different percentage to which would be applied to your principal sum. These benefits are paid in a lump sum format to the firefighter, and the amount will vary depending on which loss occurred. Please take a few moments to review these following percentages. Please note, there is no time limitation as to when this loss must occur. Under the paralysis section, if an injury causes any of the following, the indicated percentage of the accidental dismemberment principal sum will be paid. Paralysis is 2 times the principal sum and will pay for quadra, para, and hemiplegia. Uniplegia will only pay the principal sum. Uniplegia means the complete and irreversible paralysis of one limb. Please note there is no time limitation as to when this loss must occur. Under the vision impairment benefit, a lump sum will be paid if an insured person loses a percent of their eyesight. Each eye is worth 50% of the principal sum. If they lose their entire eye, this would be classified as a dismemberment. However, if an insured person just loses a percentage of their sight, a lump sum benefit will be paid based on the lost acuity percentage, listed in the policy multiplied by the vision principal sum. There are no time limitations for this benefit. The Injury Permanent Impairment Benefit is payable when a member suffers a permanent impairment due to an injury and participates in an approved physical rehabilitation program if their physical condition so warrants. It is calculated as a percent of the principal sum and is payable based on the impairment value assigned by an examining physician using the current version of the AMA guide. This benefit will not respond if coverage is provided under the heart or illness permanent impairment benefits. The following is an example of an injury permanent impairment. The firefighter is performing an interior attack, and a wall collapses on them, causing shoulder tendons to sever. After surgery and physiotherapy, the firefighter lost a percent of the use of their shoulder. Using the AMA guide, the doctor determines a whole person impairment percentage to be 15%, which is applied to the principal sum and paid. In this case, $15,000 would be payable in a lump sum payment to the firefighter. Under the Illness Permanent Impairment Benefit, a lump sum will be payable. If the illness results in a member being totally disabled for 260 weeks or 5 years, the following benefit is payable. 50% of the principal sum will be payable if the member is unable to return to their occupation. If the member is unable to return to any gainful occupation, then 100% of the principal sum will be paid. If the heart impairment benefit is awarded as well, then this benefit will be reduced accordingly. With the heart permanent impairment benefit, the insured person must have had a heart condition to which he or she is totally disabled for 26 weeks. Once this time period is met, the possibility of a lump sum payment can be made depending on 2 factors. The percent of the left ventricular ejection fraction is multiplied with the New York Heart Association's functional classification, which will deem the percentage used to be applied to the heart permanent impairment benefit limit. When a member suffers from cosmetic disfigurement due to a burn that is classified as a full thickness or 3rd-degree burn, this benefit will be paid. The benefit is paid based on the cosmetic burn schedule listed in the policy. For you EMTs out there, this schedule utilizes the Rule of 9 chart that you might be familiar with to produce a percentage that is applied to the burn benefit amount. Under the HIV-positive benefit, we will pay 100% of the principal sum if the insured person contracts HIV as a result of participating in a covered activity. Situations where there is blood splashing or needle punctures might be caused to get tested for the HIV virus. With rapid tests now being readily available, these test results can be identified early. If an insured person suffers a loss under the following 7 benefits listed, and it is as a result of a felonious assault, which is directed at the insured person while participating in a covered activity, the felonious assault benefit will be paid in addition to what might be collected from these other benefits. Under the cancer benefit, a member must first be eligible or approved for provincial workers' compensation benefits due to a cancer diagnosis, which would be covered under the firefighter presumptive legislation for cancer. Once this occurs, the member must be first diagnosed with life-threatening cancer during the policy term and receive medical treatment within 1 year. The member must also survive at least 30 days from the date of first diagnosis before payment is made to them or the beneficiary. The coma benefit will pay. If an insured person suffers an injury or illness which results, within 30 days of the causative covered activity, a permanent coma, we will pay the permanent coma impairment amount shown in the schedule each month, for a maximum of 36 months, during the life of the insured person. We will make these payments retroactive to the first day of permanent coma. NFPA statistics have suggested that there are 1,000 disabilities to 1 death a year in the fire service. The next section of benefits, called weekly income benefits, is where the majority of claims occur and are paid. The other benefits that we just talked about are very important. However, the financial impact for any family is when an income earner is not receiving income due to injury or illness. This is where the financial burden of any household could occur. Total weekly income benefit amounts payable are determined based on the member's gross average weekly wage, less other disability income benefits received from workers' compensation or other valid collectible insurance. Payment will not exceed the total disability maximum. The total disability minimum benefit is payable regardless of the member's monetary loss or average wage and is guaranteed to pay. The following benefit periods are available: 260 weeks, 520 weeks, and up to age 70. This section will give your specific details of your total disability coverage and its benefit levels. We will guarantee to pay whatever amount you have picked for the first 4 weeks or 28 days. This is not coordinated with any other benefits and is guaranteed to pay. We do this so we can get claims out the door right away due to knowing what is payable based on your department's selection. After the first 4 weeks are paid and you are still totally disabled, we will pay up to 100% of your gross weekly wage minus all other benefits that you might be receiving and reimburse you the lesser amount, your out-of-pocket weekly wage or the maximum weekly disability listed. You will never receive less than the total disability minimum weekly amount indicated in your policy, which is your guaranteed minimum payment. Here is an example of a total disability weekly income payment. When looking at gross weekly wages for those employer-related jobs, we accumulate all T4s from all employers. For those who are self-employed, we look at your T1 general. Please note that corporate dividends are not considered employment income. In this example, let's say the firefighter's gross weekly wage is $1,000 per week. They get injured on duty, and workers' compensation pays them $750 per week. Technically speaking, they are out of pocket $250 per week. If your policy has total disability for the first 4 weeks at $300 per week, you will receive this amount for the first 4 weeks. We will never pay higher than the maximum benefit, in this case $900 per week, and will never pay less than the minimum of $75 per week guaranteed. We would continue to pay $250 per week for however long the firefighter will not be able to work their full-time job. Under the total disability benefit, if a firefighter cannot work their regular occupation due to a diagnosis of PTSD or cancer, which meets our policy definition, we will extend the total disability for these 2 symptoms for the first 4 weeks only. Remember, this is the guaranteed portion of the total disability payout, and the benefit selected in your policy for this period would be applicable. When looking at the partial disability benefit, this is payable when a member cannot perform one or more, but not all, of their job duties. Think of it as being on modified duties. When you are deemed partially disabled, our partial disability benefit is 50% of the total disability levels and works the same way. However, payable up to 52 weeks or 104 weeks, whichever was selected by your fire department. Please refer to your policy or client brochure for the applicable timeframe. The following are a few general conditions tied with the VFIS weekly income benefit. The cost of living adjustment, or COLA as it sometimes is called, increases the total disability benefit on July 1st after 52 weeks. This increase will be a minimum of 5% or the percent increase in the Consumer Price Index for the preceding year, whichever is greater to a maximum of 10%. When disability is less than 1 week, we will pay 1/7 of the benefit payable for each full day of disability. Periods of total and partial disability separated by less than 5 years will be considered one period of disability, unless due to separate and unrelated causes. With the transition benefit, when a member is injured and receiving total disability benefits, and then is ready to go back to work, only to find out their full-time occupation has been terminated, the transition benefit will continue to pay the benefit being received up to a maximum of 26 weeks. The transition benefit payment ends when either the person becomes employed or the 26-week time period has been exhausted, whichever comes first. The following are total disability options that your fire department could take advantage of, as each option would require additional premium. Please take a look at your policy or client brochure to see which option you currently have with our company. If, as a result of injury or illness, an insured person is not able to remain or continue in a gainful occupation and chooses to enroll in an institution of higher learning or professional or trade training program, we will pay for covered retraining expenses, up to the occupational retraining benefit maximum amount shown. The objective must be to return the insured person to work in an occupation to which they are suited. The program must be agreed upon by us and the insured person. The following is a list of benefits that normally require reimbursement for expenses incurred. They are as follows: medical expense reimbursement, cosmetic and plastic surgery, post-traumatic stress disorder, critical incident stress management, family expense benefit, family bereavement and trauma counseling. Benefit: weekly permanent physical impairment. Benefit and home alteration and vehicle modification benefit. In general, the medical expense benefit will pay for any reasonable and customary expenses not covered by other valid and collectible insurance, such as workers' compensation up to the maximum listed. Expenses such as prescriptions, crutches, or ambulance invoices are typically not covered by workers' compensation, and our program will pay for these expenses. See additional items listed. Under the cosmetic plastic surgery benefit, coverage for reasonable and customary expenses incurred. If a member requires skin grafting or plastic surgery due to an injury for which medical expense benefits are paid or payable. The post-traumatic stress disorder. Benefit or PTSD benefit will pay for reasonable and customary expenses when participation in a specific covered activity involves a traumatic incident and a member requires treatment for post-traumatic stress disorder. Traumatic incident means an abnormal experience, outside the range of usual human experiences and includes, but is not limited to, 1. Line-of-duty death or serious injury to other insured persons, 2. A single incident having multiple casualties, 3. Death or serious injury of a child, and 4. Dealing with victims known to the insured person. The benefit listed is the maximum benefit per insured firefighter. The Critical Incident Stress Management Benefit, or CISM, will pay for reasonable and customary expenses incurred by a critical incident stress management team when services are requested by the department as a result of members being involved in a traumatic incident. Expenses such as cost of transportation for the CISM team, fees, meals, and lodging. If a member requires hospitalization for an injury or illness, the family expense benefit will pay $100 per day from day 1. After hospitalization, if the insured person needs outpatient physical therapy, this will be paid at $50 per day. The family expense benefit will be payable for a combined maximum of 26 weeks for any one injury or illness, regardless of whether it is paid at 100% or 50%. When a member dies or is affected by a traumatic incident due to a specific covered activity and a dependent child or residing immediate family member requires counseling, the Family Bereavement and Counseling Trauma Benefit will cover reasonable expenses incurred for counseling. Treatment must be prescribed and monitored by a physician. The Weekly Injury Permanent Impairment Benefit is payable if injury to an insured member results in a permanent physical impairment, valued at 50% or greater. This benefit would begin on the 261st week and would be payable for life. If the optional cost of living adjustment is purchased for this Weekly Injury Permanent Impairment Benefit, then a minimum of 5% would be payable based on the Consumer Price Index, but the award is not greater than 10% of the CPI. Increase reoccurs every July 1st. The Home Alteration and Vehicle Modification Benefit will respond when a member suffers an injury or illness causing a permanent impairment, and as a direct result requires home alteration or vehicle modification. Coverage is provided for alterations that are necessary to make the residence accessible and habitable for a wheelchair-confined person. Also, modifications to a motor vehicle owned, leased, or newly purchased that are necessary to make the vehicle accessible by the member for use. Other optional benefits include the long-term disability COLA that would be added to those clients choosing the total disability up to age 70. The weekly hospital benefit option, if chosen, would pay in addition to the family expense benefit and total disability benefit. By having this option, the insured person could collect all 3 benefits if confined to the hospital as a result of an injury, whether it be accident or illness. This benefit would be payable up to a maximum of 104 weeks. Here is a list of exclusions for our policy. Suicide or any attempt at it or intentional self-inflicted injuries. Injuries that happen while flying except as a passenger on a commercial aircraft, or as a passenger on any aircraft while taking part in a covered activity. Injuries that happen while flying as a crew member, or during parachute jumps from the aircraft. Service as a member of the armed forces of any nation, or loss resulting from enemy action or any act of war, whether declared or undeclared. Mental or emotional disorders except as specifically provided under the PTSD coverage. Treatment of alcoholism or drug addiction, and any complications arising therefrom, except loss sustained during and resulting from a covered activity. Illness except as provided by the policy. Military service of any state, province, or country. Cancer except as provided by the cancer benefit. This ends the on-duty overview portion of our accident and sickness coverage. If your fire department has only purchased the on-duty coverage, please stop the presentation unless you would like to learn more about our off-duty coverage. For those who have purchased our off-duty or 24-hour coverage option, please allow this presentation to continue, and now refer to your off-duty brochures which you should have in front of you. A special note for all members: when a loss of life occurs, the beneficiary in our policy is paid out in this specific order if no beneficiary card is on file. First on the list is your spouse. If there is no spouse, then the payment goes to the child or children. If there are no children, then payment goes to the parents. If there are no parents, the payment will go to your brother or sisters. And if there are no siblings, the loss of life benefit will be paid to the estate. As we are in the business to protect firefighters when performing firefighting duties, we have added an optional benefit to protect you from outside firefighting activities, which we call everyday life. Please keep in mind that this is a basic accidental injury policy and not a life insurance policy. At no time is this coverage a replacement for those who have short-term and long-term disability policies. What this policy represents is a great value-added policy for a fair and nominal price. The off-duty coverage provides 24-hour worldwide coverage when not performing on-duty activities for the fire department. This optional coverage may be purchased for volunteer members only or extended to include their family members. Whichever option is chosen, premium is charged per person for members who are listed on the roster. Please keep in mind that we require 50% of the fire department roster to take this coverage if wanting to proceed with our off-duty coverage. The off-duty accidental death and dismemberment benefit is the same as the on-duty chart, except that the off-duty benefit has a time restriction that the loss must occur within 365 days of the accident. Please take a moment to review the percentages applicable for each loss. With the accidental death and dismemberment benefit, paralysis is part of this benefit to which the principal sum will double when it comes to quadra, para, and hemiplegia. If uniplegia is diagnosed, then only the 100% of the principal sum is paid. Please note that there is time limit where loss must occur within the 365 days of the accident. If a properly fastened seatbelt is worn when accidental death occurs, 15% of the death benefit is paid to the beneficiary. When off-duty death benefit is paid, and the covered person was beyond a 50-kilometer radius from his or her current place of primary residence, we will pay for reasonable expenses incurred to return his or her body to the local vicinity of their current primary residence. When an off-duty death benefit is paid, this benefit will respond on behalf of a child who was dependent at the time of loss. Dependent child is defined as someone who is under age 13, currently enrolled in a daycare center and enrolled in a daycare center within 365 days of the loss. The benefit is the lesser of actual cost, 5% of the benefit amount or $5,000 per year. The benefit is payable annually for 4 consecutive payments. Under the off-duty member dependent child education benefit, this benefit will pay when an accidental loss of life occurs, and the dependent child is currently and continuously enrolled in an institution of higher learning as a full-time student. Expenses will be paid the lesser of $5,000 per school year or 5% of the principal sum. This benefit is payable up to 4 consecutive years. When an off-duty death benefit is paid, this benefit will cover actual cost incurred for a professional or trade training program for the spouse to enter the workforce. The spouse may not have been employed when the insured person was alive, but due to this tragic loss, the spouse will now need to become the breadwinner most likely for their family. All expenses must occur within 30 months of the loss. An off-duty identification benefit is paid when a member suffers an accidental death and the police require an immediate family member to identify the body. This benefit will pay for expenses such as lodging for up to 3 consecutive days, as well as all transportation expenses. The family member would get reimbursed on expenses such as these up to the limit listed. A funeral expense is paid when an accidental death occurs. Off-duty and reimbursement is required for costs incurred for cremation, burial, or funeral expenses for the deceased member. Expenses will be reimbursed up to the maximum listed for this benefit. If an off-duty death benefit is paid, this benefit will pay the person who incurs reasonable expenses for grief counseling provided that the counseling is for the spouse and/or dependent child or children, and grief counseling is provided by a licensed or certified therapist or counselor. The counseling must occur within 1 year of the accident causing such loss. If a covered person suffers an off-duty injury due to a felonious assault and an off-duty accidental death benefit is paid under this rider, we will pay an additional 10% of the off-duty accidental death benefit amount. When an off-duty accidental death benefit is paid, this benefit will provide an additional 10% on behalf of each dependent elder. Dependent elder means the covered person's parents, parents-in-law, grandparents, grandparents-in-law, great-grandparents, or great-grandparents-in-law, whether natural, step, or adoptive, who are not regularly employed on a full-time basis and are primarily dependent upon the member and residing in the member's home. If a covered person suffers an off-duty injury that results in a coma and within 90 days is continuous and persistent for a period of 6 consecutive months, at which point a physician determines to be permanent, we will pay 1% of the principal sum monthly up to 100 months, less any other amount paid or payable under this contract in connection with the same injury. Please refer to your schedule of coverage for the principal sum. Under the vision impairment benefit, if an off-duty injury to a covered person results in permanent damage to the covered person's eyesight, we will pay the indicated percentage of the off-duty accidental dismemberment principal sum for vision impairment for each eye, as outlined in the policy. To calculate the amount payable, each eye is worth 50% of the principal sum, and the percentage of loss is then applied to that eye's particular benefit amount. If an off-duty dismemberment benefit is paid, and a covered person did not previously require alterations to the home and/or modifications to the vehicle, and as a direct result of the accidental dismemberment is now required to make alterations to the home and/or modifications to the vehicle, we will pay the home alteration and vehicle modification benefit for these expenses that are incurred. The rehabilitation benefit pays for the reasonable and necessary expenses actually incurred for the occupational training of the covered person who suffers an accidental injury. Training is now required for this person to engage in an occupation that best suits their medical condition and new lifestyle. The training expenses must be incurred within 2 years from the date of the accident which caused the injury. This does not include payment for ordinary living, traveling, or clothing expenses. If a covered person suffers an injury that confines them to a hospital located more than 50 kilometers from their permanent place of residence, the family transportation benefit will reimburse reasonable and necessary expenses actually incurred. The confinement must be within 365 days of the accident causing injury, and reimbursement costs are limited to the cost of economy class return airfare via direct route or the equivalent amount toward another type of common carrier transportation. If an off-duty dismemberment benefit is paid, which requires the covered person to need psychological therapy, we will pay the reasonable and customary expenses which must be incurred within 2 years of the date of the injury. Psychological therapy means treatment or counseling by a therapist or counselor who is licensed, registered, or certified to provide the treatment, whether the treatment is provided on an in- or outpatient basis through a medical facility licensed to provide the treatment. If a member suffers an accidental injury and is employed at the time of injury, they must be disabled for at least 7 days as the weekly benefit begins on day 8. We will pay up to the person's gross weekly wage, minus all other valid and collectible insurance such as employment insurance and/or short- or long-term disability or workers' compensation. We will pay the lesser of the amount selected or the out-of-pocket gross weekly wage suffered. This benefit maximum pay period is up to 104 weeks. If a member suffers an accidental injury and is not employed at the time of loss, they must be disabled for at least 7 days as the weekly benefit begins on day 8. If you are a non-income earner such as a student, retiree, homemaker, or unemployed, a flat $100 per week benefit will be paid, and the maximum pay period for this benefit is 13 weeks. A medical diagnosis of being cleared by the physician will end this claim or 13 weeks, whichever comes first. If a member would like to extend coverage to their family members, which would be their spouse or children, this can be accomplished by purchasing the optional family coverage for an additional premium. By doing so, you will be protecting your family members from accidental injury for a very nominal cost. Please keep in mind that this is not life insurance, however, providing peace of mind if the unexpected happens to one of your family members. The following section explains this coverage. The family coverage, otherwise known as the off-duty eligible dependent coverage, provides accidental benefits to the spouse or your child or children. It does not matter how many children you have as they are covered under this optional coverage. Benefits available are determined based on the family status at the time of loss. The following percentages are applied to the member's principal sum to determine the dependent's eligible benefit amount. If you only have a spouse, their principal sum will be 60% of that of the covered person or member. If there is no spouse and you only have a child or children, their principal sum will be 20%. If the covered person or member has both a spouse and child or children, each principal sum will be 50% and 15% respectively. Your client brochure will break down the principal sums for you. Please keep in mind that if your eligible dependent loses their life by an accident, the firefighter member will be the beneficiary of this payment. If your spouse or child lose their life as a result of an accident, such as being in a motor vehicle accident, the seatbelt benefit will pay 15% of the applicable principal sum. For the accidental paralysis benefit, the principal sum doubles for your eligible dependent and is paid out in a lump sum to them. The spouse is the only dependent eligible for an accident weekly benefit, which has a 7-day waiting period and pays on day 8. The weekly amount is a flat $100 per week and payable for 13 weeks. In addition to the accidental death, dismemberment, and paralysis benefit, A few auxiliary benefits listed with monetary amounts in orange are applicable for your eligible dependents. Take a few moments to review these benefits. As a recap, the off-duty coverage also abides by the policy exclusions which were shown earlier in this presentation. Please take a moment to review them as they are standard industry exclusions. VFIS is the only company in the marketplace to provide free educational materials and training to their clientele. Most of the materials you will find on our website will be shipped to you free of charge. Take a moment to review some of the value-added information we provide to our clients. The following are other insurance products we provide to our customer base and are great supplements to your existing insurance package. We offer critical illness, which will pay a lump sum benefit if you contract a covered illness listed in the policy. We offer group life, which is guaranteed issue up to $100,000, which means there is no medical evidence needed. We also provide the Health, Dental, and Memorial Program, which is revolutionary in providing employee group benefits to your membership. With the Firefighter Conversion Program, if you leave the fire department, all of your benefits will cease. However, with this conversion program, your retired firefighter can go online, pick the plan that suits them, and pay with their Visa, keeping some of their benefits intact. Please visit our website for more details. This concludes the overview of your on-duty and off-duty benefits. I want to once again thank you for taking the time to view this presentation. If at any time you had a question pertaining to your coverage, please do not hesitate to give us a call at 1-800-461-8347, or you can simply email us your questions and send it to canada@vfis.com. All claim forms can be accessed from our website. Please keep in mind that this presentation was a basic overview of your current coverage, and any details should be referred to your specific policy language. If you want to see a copy of your policy, you must request this from the municipality or fire department. On behalf of our staff at VFIS, we thank you for your business and look forward to serving you in the future.